Today, on the request of many of my dear students, I have made a video of list of questions that are important and cover the whole chapter. We are starting with the chapter Deep Water by William Douglas. So let us quickly discuss the questions. I have even mentioned the key points along with the questions. You can elaborate or reduce the length of the answer as per the word limit or according to marks. So let's get started. Question 1 is, Douglas's first experience in water was not a happy incident. Why? You can see I have mentioned the key points. So the answer can go like, the first experience in water was unhappy and traumatic experience for Douglas. He was only 3 or 4 years old when his father took him to the beach in California for surfing. The waves pushed him down and swept over him. He was suffocated and frightened. His father picked him up, but the terror caused by the force of water housed in his mind. He was very scared and frightened. Question 2. Why did Douglas prefer to go to YMCA swimming pool to learn swimming? According to Douglas, the YMCA pool was safer compared to Yakima River. Even YMCA pool was in Yakima, and just nearby, there was Yakima River. So he felt the pool was safer. The river was quite deep and there were several cases of drowning reported about it. As against the uncertain depth of river, the pool was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, though its depth was about 9 feet at the deeper end, yet the drop was gradual and Douglas could rely on it. So this was the reason. Question 3. What was the writer's misadventure in the pool at YMCA? William Douglas's traumatic experience, this goes the answer. William Douglas's traumatic experience in the sea as a child made him afraid of water. However, as he was learning to swim in YMCA pool, he was thrown into deep end by an older boy who was 18 years of age. He suddenly came, he called him Skinny, picked him up and ducked him into the water in the sitting position. He was tossed into the water at the deep end of the pool. He was very terrified. Later on, although he tried to use his own strategies, that we'll see further, but he lost consciousness while trying. He tried to come out of the water with his strategy for 3 times, but then he failed and he lost consciousness before being hauled out. So before he was brought out, he had lost consciousness. All right. The next question is, what were the series of emotions and fears that Douglas experienced when he was thrown into the pool? Or you can also be asked as, I crossed to oblivion. Oblivion is forgetfulness. And the curtain of life fell. So the question goes like, what happened in the YMCA pool which nearly killed Douglas and developed in him a strong aversion to water? So the answer can be like, the incident which nearly killed Douglas occurred when he was 10 or 11 years old. He had decided to learn swimming at YMCA pool and thus to get rid of his fear of water. One morning when he was alone at the pool waiting for others to join in, a big bully of a boy tossed him into the deep end of the pool. Though he had planned a strategy to save himself as he went down, His plan did not work. He went down to the bottom and became panicky. Thrice he struggled hard to come to the surface but failed each time. His lungs were ready to burst. He felt exhausted and he was almost drowned in the pool. He lost his consciousness and felt that he would die. Though he was ultimately saved, this misadventure developed in him strong aversion to water. What is aversion? Aversion is hatred. Alright. Next. Question 5 is, how did swimming instructor build a swimmer out of Douglas? So we can write, the instructor that was appointed by Douglas had his own way of teaching. He put a belt around Douglas to which a rope was attached. The rope went through a pulley fixed on an overhead cable. He held on to the end of the rope and made Douglas swim for weeks. 3 months later, he taught Douglas to exhale underwater and to raise his nose and inhale, and made him overcome his fear by putting his head underwater. Next, the instructor held him at the side of the pool and made him kick his legs. Gradually, after weeks of practice, his legs relaxed. When Douglas had perfected each hurdle, the instructor coordinated his efforts and gradually built a swimmer out of Douglas. Let us see the 6th question. How did Douglas make sure that he conquered the old terror? So the answer can be, to make sure he had conquered fear, Douglas went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived in and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Act Island. Only once, when he was in the middle of the lake, did the terror return. But he confronted it and swam on. He also swam across the warm lake to the other shore. He camped there and in the morning dived and swam to the other end. This was enough to make him sure that he had conquered his fear of water. He screamed and was very happy about this. Alright, let us see the next question. The next question is, why was Douglas determined to get over his fear of water? So the answer is, the misadventure of having a near drowning experience. He had nearly drowned, so that is why I am saying near drowning experience left a deep mark on Douglas's mind. The phobia is what? A fear. The phobia of water hampered all his joys of enjoying different water sports and activities like fishing, canoeing, boating and swimming. He did not want to live with this handicap and so was determined to overcome his fear of water. Let us see the next question. What sort of terror seized Douglas as he went down the water with a yellow glow? How could he feel that he was still alive? So when in the YMCA pool he was thrown, first time he went down in the sitting position, then he had, made a strategy to kick his feet when he reached the bottom of the pool, and that he thought then he would be able to bounce back like a cork. But that was not possible. So when he went down, he could see the yellow glow. So this question is of that time. So let us see what the answer is. When the author was going down to the bottom of the pool for the first time, those 9 feet almost seemed like 90 feet. His lungs were ready to burst. But somehow he summoned all his strength and sprang upwards, hoping to reach the surface. But he did not pop up the surface like a cork, as he had imagined. When he opened his eyes, he saw nothing but yellow water. His hands too grabbed only water, and a stark terror gripped him. The terror ripped him apart, and he had no control over it. He felt paralyzed, stiff, and rigid with fear. Even the screams in his throat were frozen. It was only his throbbing heart that made him realize that he was still alive. So this was the answer. Let us see the next question. Douglas fully realized the truth of Roosevelt's statement. Who is Roosevelt? The American president. And he was also the person who had appointed William Douglas as the judge in Supreme Court of United States of America. Alright, so let us see the question again. Douglas fully realized the truth of Roosevelt's statement. All we have to fear is fear itself. How did this realization help him brush aside his fear and become an expert swimmer? Let us see the answer. Douglas had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that the fear of death can cause. Strong will, hard determination, courage, and toil, as well as honest labor, won over all his terrors and fears. The will to live brushed aside all his fears. In reality, all our fears are only psychological and can be easily won over if we can control our mind. This realization makes Douglas resolve to learn swimming by engaging an instructor. This instructor, piece by piece, built Douglas into a swimmer. However, his first step was to drive away Douglas's fear of water before training him in swimming techniques. When Douglas tried and swam the length of the pool up and down, small traces of old terror of water would return. So he went to Lake Wentworth, dived at Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Act Island. And later on, he also went to the warm lake, camped there, and in the morning dived into the lake and swam back. Finally, he was certain that he had conquered his fear of water. We all need to be very determined, courageous. We should have a strong will. If any time we want to do and achieve anything, nothing is impossible. Alright, let us see what we further. See, I have 3 questions here for you. These are self-attempt questions and they cover the whole chapter that I have already done with you in the video session also, and here with the 9 questions that we have done just now. All answers you will find in them only. It's only the way you have to write. So let us see the questions. Desire, determination, and diligence lead to success. Explain the value of these qualities in the light of Douglas's experience in deep water. So this you can do even in the last answer which was of Roosevelt. I have discussed this. How did Douglas develop an aversion to water? Aversion is hatred to water. This also I have discussed with you. Both the incidents you will mention. The one when he was a small boy of 3 and 4 and the other of the YMCA pool. Both incidents when you mention, that will be enough. Douglas was a strategist. Justify. So here strategist means the person who makes strategies, plans how to do things in future. So here you will discuss how after the YMCA pool, when he came to know about the cascades and he wanted to go for the other sports activities, how he tried to brush away his fear, the instructor that he appointed, he learned with the help of the instructor. Then also you will mention when he was thrown into the pool, swimming pool, then also when he landed in the water, he was a little terror stricken, but still he was planning what he would do when he reached the bottom of the pool. So there also he made a strategy. Then he appointed an instructor, and then you will also mention that to make sure in the month of July he swam that he went to New Hampshire, and then to the Wentworth, and then also to the warm lake. So all the things you have to show in his strategy, and all this, he was such a great strategist that he became successful because his strategy was good. He was determined, he was courageous, he did not lose hope, he did not quit, and this is the way a strategist works actually. So if you find any problems doing these questions, and if any other question arises, please do mention in my comment section. I'll meet you again in the next video. I'll be making these question and answer videos for all the chapters. Please, if you have still not subscribed my channel, subscribe and also press the bell so that you get the latest notifications of whatever is coming up. Have a nice day. Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.